San Diego County women are coming together with a message for a San Diego congressman. Stop stumping for Trump. They're calling on Darrell Issa and others to rescind endorsements of the Republican presidential candidate.
All we're asking is for, please, as soon as possible, to get some rails, high rails, so that we won't ever have to have something like this happen again.
Advocates call for action after this weekend's tragic crash in Chicano Park.
And we'll take a look at Measure D, also known as the Citizens Plan. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. San Diego County women leaders and students are calling on Representative Darrell Issa to rescind his endorsement of Donald Trump today. Several groups, including the San Diego County Democratic Party and the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council, held a rally at UC San Diego. They say Issa should not support the Republican candidate because of his remarks bragging about sexual assault and the allegations that Trump may have sexually abused multiple women.
Sexual assault is a huge issue, not just here on campus, but on every campus and across this country. And I think it is kind of disgusting that someone like Darrell Issa, who is our congressman, supports Trump.
Trump has denied all allegations of sexual assault. Donald Trump's wife says she wants to know why accusers are stepping forward now, 3 weeks before the election. Today, Fox News released an interview with Melania Trump with her first remarks since the accusations.
I was not surprised in one way because, as I said before, everything was organized. Why now? Why 3 weeks before the election? And what they're accusing my husband, that is not the person that I know. Because I know those people.
She also said she didn't agree with her husband doing interviews with Howard Stern or Billy Bush, saying they tried to get him to use inappropriate and dirty language. Trump says the negative coverage is proof the election is rigged in the favor of Hillary Clinton.
Made up stories. They're liars and made up stories. Without the media and all of the other corrupt entities that have helped her along the way, she would be nothing. She would be nothing. She would be doing so badly. Even my worst critics agree the media has come after us like they have never come after anyone before. It's my badge of honor. I mean, what am I going to do?
President Barack Obama responded to Trump today with the words, "Stop whining." He says Trump's claims are not based on any facts and they're an attempt to discredit the election before the votes are counted.
If whenever things are going badly for you and you lose, you start blaming somebody else, then you don't have what it takes to be in this job. Because there are a lot of times when things don't go our way or my way. That's okay. You fight through it. You work through it. You try to accomplish your goals. But the larger point that I want to emphasize here is that there is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
Obama made those comments during a news conference with the Prime Minister of Italy, who's being hosted tonight at the final state dinner of the Obama administration. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer joined Chargers President A.G. Spanos today to urge voters to back Measure C. The ballot measure boosts the city's tourism tax to raise more than $1 billion for a new downtown Stadium Convention Center complex. It needs a 2/3 majority vote to pass. Faulconer says professional sports are part of the region's cultural fabric.
It's the right thing for San Diego. I'm proud to be here today in support with this very strong coalition. Urge everybody to get out there, vote absentee, go to the polls. Yes on Measure C.
The event got support from union officials who want the new jobs the project will create and from players. If the measure loses at the polls in 3 weeks, the Chargers could exercise an option to move to Los Angeles. The Chargers initiative is just one of 2 stadium measures on the San Diego ballot. The other is known as the Citizens Plan. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson is at Qualcomm Stadium with more on Measure D.
Well, supporters of Measure D hope that voters back their plan to both promote and manage the region's tourism industry. They're asking voters to approve a tax increase that would then guide development both downtown and here outside of Qualcomm Stadium in this big parking lot in Mission Valley.
So, look, this is a piece of property with lots of challenges.
When former state lawmaker Steve Peace strolls through the Qualcomm Stadium parking lot, he sees possibilities.
As the reclamation of the river expands up this way and then melds into the recreational, simple, passive sports, activities, soccer fields, this sort of thing, and we get rid of all this asphalt. We make that go away.
Peace says this 160-acre plot of land would become a university-owned park if the Qualcomm Stadium site was ever redeveloped.
Taking this single last large, huge swath of property and preventing a replication of the mistakes that you see to the west. We can go on this trolley and look down the west and see the overdevelopment. You can see the traffic impact.
The 70-plus page ballot Measure D sets guidelines for developing the property in Mission Valley for expanding the downtown convention center, and it allows for the construction of a sports stadium either downtown or in Mission Valley.
The fundamental core value of Measure D is it increases the city council's bargaining position, the mayor's bargaining position, and protects the taxpayer by setting strict spending limits. Strictly saying you cannot spend public money on a professional football or professional sport facility of any kind.
Peace says Measure D allows for specific development, but the projects themselves are not required. The only guarantee if the measure passes is a hike in the transient occupancy tax to 15.5%. That money gets sent to the general fund where it can pay for city needs.
If nothing happens other than the rate gets set at a rational market rate that makes sense and treats the public more fairly, that's a good result and we can live with that.
Measure D was put together by local attorney Corey Briggs. He's a major financial backer, as is JMI Realty.
Yes on D will save Qualcomm for open space.
Both have loaned the campaign money, which has led to a website and some web advertising.
So I have very mixed emotions about it because I want to see some of these questions answered.
Michael Stepner teaches at the New School of Architecture in downtown San Diego. His background is in city planning. Stepner says Measure D addresses some long-running issues in San Diego, and he likes the potential.
But at the same time, I want to see the questions answered in not necessarily a ballot box measure, but something that is in context with a lot of other things that are going on.
Stepner's indecision about Measure D is not shared by tourism marketing officials who don't like the proposal. Individual hotels would have to opt in to fund tourism marketing, and smaller hotels would carry a lighter burden. Measure D is also getting pushback from the San Diego County Taxpayers Association. President Haney Hong says the measure is incredibly complex.
And if you were to change any aspects of it, because this is a ballot initiative, to change anything would require them to go back to the ballot box.
Hong says the taxpayer protections are welcome, but he says a sweeping plan like this really demands more public input. As is, Measure D eliminates flexibility if future city leaders decide to take a different course.
But I think one thing is for certain is that should it pass, there's very likely to be legal disputes around this, which then the taxpayers would be responsible for covering.
There are also questions about how many votes the measure needs to pass. Some argue its tax hike requires 2/3 support. Backers say the increase is for the general fund, so only a simple majority is required. Either way, voters need to do some work to understand the measure. San Diego State University professor Stephen Goggins says that's a problem at the ballot box.
And the general tendency of people then is to check no, that they don't want to agree with things that they are aren't fully sure of. And so there's definitely kind of a tendency towards those breaking towards unsure to vote no.
And if that's not confusing enough, there's the matter of Measure C. It also calls for an increase in the tourist tax to fund a stadium convention center complex downtown. If both measures are approved by voters, the one with the most yes votes goes into effect. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The Registrar of Voters will get an additional $1.8 million in part to fund election cost overruns. The San Diego County Board of Supervisors approved the request from Registrar Michael Vu today. Some of the money will be used to cover the cost of printing ballot materials, which are especially high this year because of the length of the ballot. The county had allocated $3.5 million for the printing, but that didn't cover it. Statewide plastic bag ban is on the November ballot. That's Proposition 67, while Proposition 65 looks to where to allocate the revenue made from the sale of eco-friendly carry-out bags. KCET's Val Zabala explains.
Prop 65, this is a tricky one. It's one of two measures dealing with grocery bags. Yep, there are two. Prop 65 says if grocery stores charge customers for carry-out bags, the money would have to go into a state fund for the environment. Now, environmental groups should like this, right? They don't. The Sierra Club, for example, hates it because surprisingly, it's plastic bag companies who propose Prop 65. Why? Environmental groups say the plastic bag companies want grocery store chains to help them defeat the ban on plastic bags. That's Prop 67. One way to get the grocery stores to help them defeat the ban is to be sure they don't make money on the sale of the other bags. I know, confusing. The plastic bag makers say they simply want to use the money from the sale of carry-out bags to benefit the environment. Now, this is one prop where you should pay attention to who's behind it. If you want to go along with the plastic bag companies, vote yes on Prop 65. If you want to go along with environmental groups, vote no on 65.
Last chance to register. California voter registration deadline is less than a week away. About 73% of the state's residents have already registered. That's more than 18 million people. State officials say they hope the same number will show up at the polls.
Every citizen 18 years or older has a fundamental right to register and a right to vote. Nothing should stand in your way, and we're here to make sure that happens for all.
Voters can register in person at polling places or by filling out online a form with the Secretary of State's website by October 24th. You can get a look at all of the issues on your ballot with the KPBS Voter Guide. It's an interactive website. Just put in your address and you'll see what's on your ballot with links to our coverage of the issues. You can find it at kpbs.org/voter guide. Tonight, an update into an investigation into a deadly accident. Saturday, a Navy technician drove off the Coronado Bridge, killing 4 people in Chicano Park. Today, officials held a press conference there to discuss prevention. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen was there.
It wasn't just the media that showed up to this press conference today. Dozens of community members also came hoping to hear some answers on why the barriers on the side of the Coronado Bridge were not able to stop a truck from falling onto the people here in Chicano Park. Unfortunately, officials say they don't have those answers yet. State Senator Ben Hueso promised he would fight for state resources to investigate the accident, and he says the 4 deaths will not be in vain.
This tragic incident will result in improved safety for not only the people of this community, but everyone who uses that bridge.
This isn't the first time a vehicle has fallen off this part of the Coronado Bridge. In 2004, a pickup truck was hit by a bus, falling onto nearby train tracks. The driver of the truck was killed. Advocates for Chicano Park say their treasured space for recreation does not feel safe.
All we're asking is for, please, as soon as possible, to get some rails, high rails, so that we won't ever have to have something like this happen again. It should have never happened in the first place. That's right.
Both Caltrans and the California Highway Patrol are investigating this accident, and both say it could take months before those investigations are over and they can decide what actions will come next. Reporting from Chicano Park, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Uniformed police officers from cities across California gathered in Palm Springs today to honor two police officers. Leslie Zerebny and Jose Vega were killed after they responded to a domestic disturbance call earlier this month. Nearly 10,000 mourners attended today's memorial service. Protesters and law enforcement officers clashed again in El Cajon last night after a makeshift memorial was removed from outside the strip mall where Alfred Alongo was fatally shot by police. El Cajon police issued an advisory to motorists to avoid the areas of Broadway and North Mollison where the protest was taking place. Alongo was a 38-year-old Ugandan immigrant. He was shot and killed on September 27th. A federal task force is recommending dozens of safety changes for the nation's 400 underground natural gas storage wells, like the ones at Aliso Canyon. A year ago, a leak there spewed tons of natural gas and drove thousands from their homes. A government spokesperson says federal rules on natural gas storage are expected by the end of the year. Currently, there are no federal regulations on gas storage. They're left to states and local jurisdictions. The San Diego City Council today voted down a long-term agreement with Civic San Diego. That's the city nonprofit that oversees permitting and planning in downtown San Diego and development in parts of southeastern. The measure failed by one vote. Council members who voted against it were concerned it was a permanent contract and said the community benefits didn't go far enough. California Water Commission officials are trying to determine what to do with nearly $3 billion in funds that have been set aside for the water storage investment project. The program was funded by a 2014 voter-approved proposition. Project proposals may include reservoir re-operations, making improvements to existing water systems, and deciding where to store water.
The projects are going to provide water supply benefits, and in addition, on the state side, they're going to provide benefits to ecosystems, recreation, emergency response. So it's a different kind of program. It's much more of an investment than a partnership.
Officials have until December 15th to establish project regulations. Preliminary project decisions are expected to be made late next year. Water researchers are urging state officials to take action to address California's drought. Officials for the Public Policy Institute of California say the drought is pushing forth into its 6th year. An October report from the institute says factors like climate change are threatening California's water for rural communities. Water experts want policy changes to ensure communities have clean water. They say if no laws are passed, more money will be spent.
We've spent already in this drought something like $148 million in Tulare County alone just in responding to the drought.
Water experts say progress has been made, but not enough to improve water systems for rural communities. The higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada got an early dusting of snow with about an inch of accumulation. This is near the Donner Summit area. It won't last, though. Warm weather is expected to return there. And here in San Diego, 90-degree temperatures are expected along the coast. Regina Miller has tonight's KPBS weather report.
Well, looking at your conditions across California, we've had a couple of showers around Northern California a little bit earlier on near Redding. But as you go farther southward, things have been very dry. In Ramona, nothing going on there right now. Poway, we don't even see any clouds at all here showing up on our satellite imagery. Borrego Springs also looking very dry at this time. Now, as we go into the nighttime hours, clear skies with an overnight low of 62 degrees. We'll see clear skies also into Borrego Springs at 60 degrees. Mount Laguna falls to 48 degrees under clear skies, and Alpine will be at 54 degrees, 47 into Ramona. And the big story is really going to be some very gusty, drying winds. We have the Santa Anas returning, and that is going to create very warm conditions even to the coastline and increase our fire danger here as well, and that will be the case through Thursday. And look at these temperatures. Even along the coast, we will be warming warming up to 92 degrees, sunny and breezy on Thursday. Very low humidity, so very dry air mass. Friday, 90 degrees with plenty of sunshine. And then we get back to around the 80-degree mark as we go into the late weekend. Inland, we're at 92 degrees for your Wednesday. Look at these temperatures, very, very hot. So you'll be just sweltering here on Thursday. Blazing sunshine, 98 degrees, 97 degrees for your Friday. And we don't fall back into the 80s until we get to Sunday, when we'll top out around 87 degrees. In the mountain areas, 65 degrees for your Wednesday. We do see plenty of sunshine. It is going to be windy, and Thursday will be at 67 degrees. We start to warm up to 71 degrees. By Friday, again, we have sunny conditions, nice and comfortable there. In the desert, 92 degrees on Wednesday, sunny and very warm. And then on Thursday, we're also going to see sunshine, very warm conditions with a temperature of 92 degrees. But look at that as we go into Saturday. We're at 97 degrees for a daytime high. So definitely going to be dealing with quite a bit of heat here, especially as we go into the late week. And plus, like I said, we have those low humidities as well. Gusty winds through Thursday. I'm Regina Miller for KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next News Hour. Ground Report Nevada. How a split among Republicans could alter the Senate race in that swing state. That's Tuesday on the PBS News Hour.
California needs more Latino doctors. A new survey shows Latinos only make up 5% of the state's doctors, although 40% of California's population is Latino. The 3-year study recommends creating a partnership with K-12 schools, community colleges, and universities to develop a career pipeline for Latino students interested in the medical field. The Zika virus can have devastating effects on babies, from brain damage to more subtle defects that won't show up until later. And with no vaccine or medicine for the infection, scientists are still discovering the long-term effects of the mosquito-borne virus. AP reporter Kathy Matheson has the story.
A happy occasion for family and friends, a first birthday. But reaching the milestone hasn't been easy. It was nearly a year ago that images of Jose Campos, born with a small head, helped shed light on the devastating birth defects linked to the Zika virus. The mosquito-borne outbreak began in Brazil, causing alarm worldwide, including in the U.S. Today, doctors in Brazil are finding that Zika-related microcephaly appears to cause more severe problems than microcephaly cases linked to other factors.
We are writing the history of this illness. We need some time to watch these children grow.
Researchers are calling it congenital Zika syndrome. Many babies now have issues with vision and hearing. Others have epileptic seizures. Some were born with normal heads that later failed to grow properly. Jose is fed through a tube because of difficulty swallowing, a problem shared by this woman's son.
If he eats through his mouth today, I know that he is risking his life. He could die.
Yet health officials in Brazil note an 85% drop in microcephaly cases in August and September compared to the same time last year. They credit growing awareness of the virus and mosquito spraying campaigns. Medical studies will continue as the babies get older.
I learned with him. I learned things, especially about love.
And as doctors learn more, so do the families of these children. Kathy Matheson, Associated Press.
San Diego has the 4th largest homeless population in the nation, and advocates say the city's affordable housing crisis just makes things worse. Father Joe's Villages is San Diego's largest homeless service provider, with the goal of helping people get on their feet. Today, I spoke to a man who's doing just that after 17 years without a home.
A house to come home to, a comfortable place to relax. But Wayne Hazlitt says that's not the best part.
Having a shower and a bed.
Hazlitt lives in Spring Valley after years in and out of San Diego County shelters.
Being on the streets, I didn't know where I would be able to get a shower at. And when I would go on the bus or the trolley, I would be afraid of people judging me.
Hazlitt says he even judged himself.
Even I thought of homeless as low life.
In 1999, Wayne got out of prison with nowhere to go.
My family disowned me. I didn't have anywhere to go except for either the streets or St. Vincent's.
Ruth Bruland is the chief program officer at Father Joe's Villages.
Wayne, we know him really well over the years, and we've seen some highs for him and some lows for him, and this now is home.
She finds every client has different struggles.
When you've been out on the street for a long time, almost your sense of humanity can erode. And so that needs to be built back up, that you really can be in touch with your person because you're not horrified by what you experienced.
For Hazlitt, the building back up included addiction counseling for alcoholism, therapy for clinical depression, and links to resources.
I'm grateful for what they have done for me, and I put in the effort to get where I'm at.
Which is the Golden House, an independent living community where tenants pay rent, follow rules, and where Hazlitt says he finds the structure he needs.
Hazlitt recently went to his 40th high school reunion for Oceanside High School. He tells me now that he's starting to get on his feet, he finally has the confidence to reconnect with former classmates. A pair of iconic shoes are in trouble. Dorothy's ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz have been on display at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History. But after 80 years, they're less ruby and more of a dull auburn. The Smithsonian is launching a Kickstarter campaign. They're hoping to raise $300,000 to preserve them. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, San Diego schools may receive over $1.5 billion if 10 ballot measures are passed in November. We find out which schools may benefit from the funds. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.